A very good evening to all. On behalf of the Center for Management Communication, I am Bangalore. I, Ria Mishra, extend a warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, our audience, the members of CEE, and all other viewers watching us live on the YouTube to this roundtable discussion on global to local climate action on the ground. I would like to spend a few minutes to talk about the center. The Center for Management Communication was established as a center of excellence to establish and develop best management practices in managerial communication. At CMC, we believe that communication is the key to driving change. The Center for Management Communication has sustainability and communication as one of its key focus areas. At the center, we have been organizing a series of events and on sustainability and communication, engaging both internal as well as external stakeholders, details of which you can see on this presentation. At the center, we have organized various initiatives and in which we have collaborated with centers like Center for Environment Education and industry bodies like CII, CESD. Our goal is to collaborate with these centers so that we can give an extensive coverage of this topic, which has gained significant traction in these months. The center also has several courses in the executive education programs, full-time programs in our PGP, and as a part of the GNAM network. The GNAM network is Global Network for Advanced Management, which includes 32 global leading business schools around the countries, cultures, and regions, and with economies which are at different development. Indian Institute of Management Bangalore is the only Indian management school to be a part of the GNAM network. Through these initiatives and courses, we strive to bridge the gap between industry, policy, and academia. Faculty members in our area are also engaged in their thought leadership at various international forums, including WHO and European Midwives Association, and write in the popular press on these issues. Today's discussion is another step in our commitment to fostering meaningful dialogue and action. We welcome you once again. Let's engage, exchange, and take this conversation forward. I will now request our co-collaborator of this event, CE South, to introduce the agenda for today's discussion by displaying a video. Thank you. I would now like to invite Ms. Rajni from CE South to give us a context setting before we see the video from the CE. Please welcome Ms. Rajni.
Thank you, Ria. Good evening, everyone. It's our absolute pleasure to welcome you on this important roundtable on from global to local climate action on ground. Today, we gather here as a crucial juncture where climate action requires not only international commitments, but meaningful action at ground. At the Center for Environment Education, our mission has been always bring knowledge with action, also with policy and action. So together, CE and CMC, we come together to host this roundtable because no doubt the climate change is the title. Every single day we hear about it and it's the right time to act on. Today we are honored to have esteemed leaders from different fields, from industries, government, policy, those who are like actively participating and shaping the landscape of sustainability and climate action. So there, from them, like we will be able to learn about the challenges, opportunities, and pathways for climate action. So here we aim to spark collaborative thinking and action. How we can actually integrate this climate international climate goals with local needs, how the multi-stakeholder like industries, government, and communities can come together and create a long-term scalable climate solutions. These are the some key questions we would like to explore today. Before we move forward, I really would like to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Deepthi and Center for Management Communications to have this important discussion in partnership. So let us engage, question, and collaborate for this. Before we set the tone for the discussion, we would like to set the stage with a small video. This is on. This is highlighting the Karnataka State Action Plan on Climate Change, which is the major tool in the area of subnational policy. Since 2021, CE in partnership with Handsettle Foundation and Environmental Management Policy and Research Institute, we work on this subnational policy, majorly to bring the collaboration amongst different stakeholders to work on the monitoring system for the climate action. Like this is in the this we have done with different studies, and finally, like we have come up with a tool to convey to different audience like you how this global action plan that has broken down to the at the subnational level. And so this is this highlighting this action plan, and also like it is depicting how that collaboration and data driven solutions and stakeholder engagements is working on this resilience for the country, and this we can take away for the rest of this country. So let us take this moment to watch this video, which will depict the inspiring journey of Karnataka's action plan effort.
Climate change is a global crisis, but its solutions start locally. Karnataka State Action Plan on Climate Change, or KSAPCC, is bridging the gap between policy and practice. Erratic rainfall, devastating droughts, and growing water crises have made Karnataka's agriculture and water sectors highly vulnerable. But Karnataka is rising to the challenge with targeted, data-driven solutions. The KSAPCC was designed to address Karnataka's unique climate challenges through the efforts of the Center for Environment Education, in partnership with Hans Seidel Stiftung India and Environmental Management and Policy Research Institute. KSAPCC's initiatives emphasize collaboration, capacity building, and data-driven decision-making. At the heart of this effort is collaboration. The Center for Environment Education, in partnership with Hans Seidel Stiftung and EMPRI, is actively strengthening multi-stakeholder approaches. Their work bridges national policies like the NAPCC with state-level goals under the KSAPCC, ensuring inclusivity and transparency. In 2024, Karnataka introduced a real-time monitoring system to track the progress of the KSAPCC. This e-governance dashboard ensures transparency, interdepartmental coordination, and data-driven decision-making. By fostering collaboration and accountability, it sets a benchmark for climate action monitoring across India. As Karnataka's climate actions evolve, they serve as a blueprint for other states. Together, we can build a sustainable, resilient future. Act today to make a difference.
Thank you. With this, as you have seen the video, KSAPCC, it's demonstrating the powerful example of how multi-stakeholder approach and data-driven solutions playing the role for the implementation of state action plan. With this, we'll open the plenary. So before that, I would like to invite my colleague, Dr. Abhilash, to introduce the speakers.
Good evening, everyone. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you all here and in this engaging roundtable discussion from global to local. So, this session is dedicated to exploring how global policies translate into meaningful local action, addressing climate challenges through collaborative efforts. Today, we are privileged to have distinguished panel of experts from policy, governance, business, and environmental conservation, each playing a vital role in the driving sustainable solutions. So let's begin by introducing our esteemed speakers. First, I would like to call Judith Weinberger Singh, with a strong background in European Union Indian partnership and business development. Ms. Judith has been instrumental in fostering international collaboration through European Business and Technological Center and Europe India 40 under 40 leader. She also co-founded the WICCI India EU Business Council and serves as the ambassador for Green Indian Startup Exchange Program. Ms. Judith, we look forward to your insights on how global cooperation can strengthen local climate action. Please, I would like to take us. Now, shifting from global partnership to governance, our next speaker play a crucial role in shaping urban infrastructure for sustainability. Dr. V. Ram Prasad Manohar, an IS officer from 2010 batch and a chairman of BWSSB. Dr. Manohar had led a water management, sanitation, and urban governance efforts in Karnataka. So his leadership in sustainable urban planning is pivotal in tackling climate challenges at systemic level. So, sir, we are eagerly awaiting your perspective on integrating sustainability into our urban development. So, please take the seat. So continuing with the theme of governance and environmental policy, our next speaker has been instrumental in integrating climate conscious strategies in business operation. Mr. Srinivasa CK, General Manager and Division Head Sustainability ESG at Toyota Kirloskar. Mr. Srinivas has over 25 years of experience in carbon neutrality, circular economy, and afforestation initiatives. So his work demonstrates how industries can drive impactful climate action. So, we are very eager to hear how business can lead the transition towards sustainability. We are welcoming you to see. So, moving together policy, science, and corporate sustainability, our final speaker has been a key figure in climate research and action, Ms. Denuka Srinivasan. So, with over 25 years of experience in climate change and environmental policy, Ms. Denuka is the Environment Sustainability Affairs Manager at ABB India. So, and she's a co-author of in the environmental sustainability in IPCC's third assessment report. Her expertise lies in bridging research with actionable sustainable strategy. Ma'am, we look forward to your insights on the role of science and corporate responsibility in climate action. So we'd like you to welcome. Now I'd like to call the moderators to start the panel.
Thank you, Abhilash, for introducing and set the stage. Welcome, everyone. Let's begin with our first speaker, who will share insights on multilateral and bilateral collaboration for climate action, lessons from European Union engagement. Our first speaker, Ms. Judith, represent Consider Stifting India, brings valuable perspectives on how international collaboration can drive impactful climate action. Ms. Judith. The European Union has played a significant role in advancing global climate cooperation. So we would like to understand the best practice from EU, since it's playing a global example throughout the country, throughout the globe. What are some of the most effective climate initiatives from EU that can serve a model for countries like India? We can bring insight.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I'm very honored to be part of this panel. Thank you for the invitation. As mentioned, I'm the resident representative of Hans Seidel Foundation, a German political think tank headquartered in Munich. We have been in India for over 3 decades now, with an office in Bangalore and Delhi. And our key objective, not only in India, but also globally, is to localize the implementation of sustainable development goals in different areas, and climate change or climate action being one of the important SDGs that our foundation is working on. And important, of course, also with local partners like CEE. So thank you very much, Rajni, for making this possible. We have seen that in the video that we have been working on a joint project for quite some time, and I'm pleased that this has taken shape and is successfully going on. Before I answer your question, I'd just like to make a brief disclaimer that my answer is basically not on behalf of the European Union, because I'm representing Hans Seidel Foundation, so I'll speak from my point of view and also attempt to weave in some personal experiences. Since I have been working in the space of international cooperation before, especially in the realm of EU-India partnerships or partnership instruments that have come up in the past decade or so. In addition, I was also managing director of a corporate development authority in Germany, where I got to understand the on-the-ground reality of how to implement the big visions or the policies that are pertaining to a global level at a very local level, that is at a municipal level. So with this context, coming back to the question in terms of EU best practices or key lessons that one can look at in terms of climate action, climate change initiatives, I believe there are many important or very interesting points that we could discuss or look at. What I like to flag is, of course, first and foremost, and many of you would have heard about it, a comprehensive policy and strategy framework called the EU Green Deal. So that is a very comprehensive, you could also call it roadmap towards zero emission by 2050. There is also, a sub goal linked to it, Fit for 55, which is targeting the lowering of emissions by 2030. So this policy framework as such is, of course, and at the global system of multilateral cooperation makes a big difference. And emerging from that, or kind of interdependent with the policy level that has been designed by the European Union, European Commission, is also the topic of climate financing tools or climate finance in general. So the EU is, in 2022, I got a figure, was the largest contributor to projects in terms of climate finance, especially in developing countries, amounting to 28. So the policy framework goes hand in hand also with the question, how do we implement certain objectives, not only within the European Union and its 27 member states, Germany, my home country, being one of them, but also in collaboration with global partners, because as we heard today, climate resilience cannot be achieved at a local level or in isolation. It is a global stage that we are looking at and where we find ourselves, and only jointly can we really overcome the most pressing challenges that are at the current at stake as well. Another important point in this regard is, of course, that when looking at best practices from Europe, I would not like to only dive into domestic or national best practices. But since we're here in India, I think what we have to really underscore is the strategic partnership between the European Union and India that has been formulated long back, been formulated further also in terms of environmental protection in 2008. And in the last few years, particularly also under the roadmap 25. So within that strategic partnership, there are plenty of joint objectives that basically bring those two partners very closely together. And that's already the first point, that the European Union always strives to, from my experience, work with partners who share the same objectives and goals. India, being a signatory to the Paris Agreement, is of course a natural partner in this regard. And from that strategic level, many very concrete partnership instruments have emerged, like the India-EU Water Partnership, one example, very successful. Then the Climate and Clean Energy Partnership. Recently, I read also the fourth forum of EU-India sustainability in urban spaces has been conducted in Delhi. So sustainable urbanization is another key topic where both of the partners work very closely and have already brought about a lot of projects. And that's also probably where another point, and then I conclude my answer, comes into play. It's always about not only a comprehensive policy framework, also a comprehensive and interdisciplinary approach is important. So that within your partnership instruments and international cooperation, it's essential to also include companies like the private sector, as well as civil society organizations. And within the EU-India partnership, I think we have many examples where this has been recognized and acknowledged. And also today we have two companies here in the panel, which would make it a very interesting discussion, I suppose, and I hope. Yeah, so with this, I don't want to take more time and conclude here for now.
Thank you, Judith. This highlights the importance of structured international partnership, which is driving the climate action. So we also like to understand the bridging aspect of policy and action. So oftentimes we understand even international collaboration often face challenges in implementation. So like from your experience, what mechanism or partnerships has been most successful in ensuring that this efforts leads to measurable and long-term climate resilient outcomes across the globe?
I probably already gave a prelude to the answer to this. I'm coming back to the point of a holistic approach, which is very significant for achieving actually successful solutions that are implementable. It's important to look at the actual demand and requirements on the ground and the processes that already exist, the procedures, the governance structure. So also that's another key area that also Hans Seidel Foundation globally looks into by looking into decentralized governance structures. And India, again, is a natural partner here for us, for Germany, also having a federal system and a division of certain responsibilities at different layers or levels of governance. So that makes it interesting, but also complex and challenging. And that should basically always, in my, again, personal experience, should always be highlighted when defining, first of all, what's the exact problem statement that we're looking at, and how can a solution be designed which is inherently compatible with what the parameters that exist kind of are defined. So otherwise you design smart solutions or good projects and finance them maybe as well successfully, but once the partnership tool or financial mechanism is pulled out, then in the implementation, there's no sustainability left. So it has to be intrinsically sustainable by itself. So that's, I think, my the key point I'd like to make here. And for that, again, it is required to include a diverse range of stakeholders, public sector, government, of course, private sector, the academicians, and civil society, of course, local stakeholders at a micro level as well, who are concerned or who are even affected by the impact or consequences of climate change. Only then can we really derive and design solutions jointly and also learn from each other. That's always a key aspect in international cooperation. And again, India being a very good example here, that it's a win-win, a two-way street kind of situation where we bring in strength on both ends and then build innovative or customized solutions together for the challenges ahead.
Thank you, Judith, for sharing the insights on international best practices and collaborative models. Now, let's shift our focus to the role of subnational government, which is again a crucial pillar and element for any country. So, again, climate resilience, particularly in water management and urban sustainability. Our next speaker, Dr. Ramprasad Manohar, IAS from Bangalore Water Supply and Sewerage Board, BWSSB, will share his perspective on how cities and state government, which is subnational, are tackling climate challenges. Dr. Manohar, cities and subnational governments play a critical role in climate resilience. So we'd like to understand from you the localization part of the policy, especially on climate action. Can you share a specific example how Bangalore or Karnataka has successfully addressed water management and urban sustainability challenges?
Very good evening to all of you. So it's very important to note that the urbanization in India, how the global climate change is affecting urban environment. That is very key topic for this particular seminar. In fact, exactly 1 year before from today, I received a call from Chief Secretary of Karnataka stating that you have been appointed as Chairman Bangalore Water Supply Board. I was not knowing the reason for what I am being recruited. So I thought to join immediately. I have been told because for more than 200 days continuously there was a dry spell in the city. It is all due to climate change, which we call with jargons. It's climate change. So 200 days there was no rainfall in year 2024, and Kaveri was supplying to only 2/3 of the population of Bengaluru. So remaining 1/3 was coming from groundwater source. So ultimately, when the rainfall fails, the groundwater gives up, and ultimately the water scarcity started. So the moment I took over the charge as a chairman BWSSB, I thought, what is the gravity of this climate change induced water crisis? So I visited some of the slum dwelling areas, the poor people living areas. That time I was interacting with the people. One Mrs. Gauramma, she was saying that she has to pay more than 1,000 rupees for getting the water. And for that also she has to wait for 2-3 days. And she get very little water. And whatever she earns with the little housekeeping work, the most of the fund is going towards spending for water. So this is the illustration of how a climate change can impact the poorest of the poor, and it affects their livelihood and sustainability. We talk sustainability, and the real sense is it bites the poorest among the poor, especially the urban poor. Anyhow, rural poor have some other mechanism, but urban poor, they're already over exploited in terms of their labor, but under given the opportunity to get the such social benefits. So having understood the situation, then I visited B of the IT cadres. Then IT cadre, I went to IT parks in Mahadevapura zones, where I found that the people were not getting the water for their regular operations, including their cooling towers are not getting the water. So global companies, having understood this challenge, they thought, why don't we shift from Bangalore to some other location where water will be there? So once the global IT companies in Bengaluru got this attention, then it got the international attention. Then it became Bengaluru water crisis. And the projection was like that the Bengaluru will become zero day like Durban in South Africa. Now you see the economic impact of the climate change induced water crisis. So from starting from poor to upper class society, the water crisis, which is very basic element for survival, has affected the city. So amidst this crisis, we thought there is an opportunity. Always there is an opportunity in every crisis. So with our team being together, we discussed what we can do. We visited many of the apartments, many of the IT corridors, many of the urban areas in the remotest part to understand what is there. Then finally, in one midnight in Yelanka, apartment, I forgot that apartment name. So Yelanka, we went there and there one gentleman was demonstrating to us that a small aerator being used and that can save up to 60 to 80% of the water. Then we picked up that idea. So why don't we use that aerator across city? So immediately we got that idea. So we implemented that water aerator to the Bengaluru households where the water is being mostly used. So apartments, commercial complexes, we fitted with the aerator. So that has saved more than 5 crore liters water per day. We have a very small device, 50 rupees device, which we can very well save water. So that was a key implementation in using the effective use of water in using the small technology. That now today I am happy to see in your washroom, the aerator is fitted. That is the implications of subnational action at the ground for the climate change. Then secondly, we met one gentleman, Mr. Gautam. He was a startup company. He was using waterless urinals. So we advocated that also in commercial complexes where a lot of floating population is using water. Then that became the policy. Now even IAM complexes are having waterless urinals. I'm happy to see that in your washrooms. So this is one small method where we can do something about action. And thirdly, which we thought when we visited the Wipro complex, they were telling that it's okay that we can use borewell water, but for cooling tower, we don't need a borewell water or fresh water. At least you give some treated water. Then treated water, there is some bacteria. Then we started calling Indian Institute of Science, and we collaborated with them to produce zero bacteria treated water, which can be used in non-potable purpose, including cooling towers. So that with that, from 65,000 liter per day treated water usage, we could be able to increase 65 lakhs treated water usage across Bengaluru. So that's one of the action to the call. So similarly, groundwater also we want to protect. So we put IoT sensor to protect extra over exploitation of the underground borewells. So therefore, we are able to sustain that. And more than that, in entire this kind of initiatives, being alone or single man action will never lead to big actions. Of course, single man is a critical block in action, but connecting together on a common policy platform in public support. So being a utility organization under the government of Karnataka, we are able to mobilize all the stakeholders like Bangalore Apartment Federation and Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce Industries and builders associations and various residential welfare associations to come forward to implement these policies and create a widespread public awareness. That's how all this global climate change can only be acted upon at the ground level to resist and bring the challenges into an opportunity. And with this, lot of startups got business also. And lot of people now, Bangalore is water sufficient, though we are forewarning that this underground water should be not be exploited more. We have issued a advisory note not to use such things, but still I'm very confident this summer with all these sustainable initiatives which BWS has initiated, we are hopeful that the climate change we are effectively fighting, but long way to go. But for this summer, I will ensure that Bangalore gets sufficient water.
Thank you, Dr. Manohar. So that's an inspiring example of localizing climate action according to the geographical situation. Scaling of such kind of initiatives required support in terms of financial, also technical. So what sort of support in terms of technical and financial that state require or would need from the country at national level, also from global level?
See, I told very categorically, if we look up to somebody to fund our project, it will never happen. But we have to innovative mechanism to fund this kinds of project. In fact, it should be self-sustainable model. Being a local administrator, I can say that if we keep expecting some kind of global aid for fighting our own climate change, then we will be only waiting like a man fishing in the pond without fish in terms of region. Okay, so we have to act locally and mobilize local resources like this. Even aerator, which costs only 50 rupees, it doesn't need a very big $1 million support for. If I make a big project and if I expect the finance to come in, then naturally it won't come out because every finance always tied up. Even global finances are tied up with some or other instructions. So my best way forward, which I suggest, is that yes, of course, international agencies, developed countries can contribute for fighting this climate change in the developing countries and the subnational level. But still, I always strongly emphasize local resilience is most important factor, and use the local community leadership, community available small innovative financing mechanism like 50 rupees spending from a packet per individual is not a big money, but it will have a big impact. Like every day, they can save more than 100 liters of water. If you are able to convince the people that by saving 100 liters of water, you are able to save more than 10 rupees per day. So within 5 days, it will be return on investment. So that way, we have to convince. Of course, if the funds are coming up, it's welcome. The fund has to come for developing research and development, especially the technological part, not for the implementation part, because a lot of new technologies have come up, including wastewater treatment to highest category, like Institute of Science. That same thing, Eurobacteria water, we invested only 5 lakh rupees to get that technology in field. That kind of solutions will be more sustainable than a big ticket budgets. That's what my opinion. It may be different for somebody else, but I feel we should rely on our own. And India is having sufficient financial and technical strength to stand on its own. And local self-government should look forward, make the opportunity, and get the financing from the local mobilization. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is very practical, and it is changing the perspective, overall perspective. Like, because when climate action comes, the perspectives look at something different. Something is going to come. Something is happening outside. That way, like having some exemplary model in the state, and also look at what we can do with the best of our ability. That is the best example for the other states and especially urban.
Points. We know our friends are there who are going to become managerial experts in the fields. So I feel that, see, even the sewage right now we are working on a project to convert the sewage into biogas. So right now we are letting this biogas and sewage waste. So sewage has to be converted as a fertilizer, and biogas can be converted and given as a fuel for the BMTC buses. So where your problem is there, it is a solution. God always gives opportunity in a very hidden form. Only genius can understand, wisdomful can understand. I remember that the people in India are sufficiently wisdomful to understand any crisis, any challenges. If you turn down and see that it is an opportunity, it is an opportunity in the guise. So we have to look into that. And similar way, climate change is an opportunity. Like what I said, 200 days when the rain was not there, then only we could able to understand the importance of water. Otherwise, water was not even respected. Though our culture prescribed that water should be worshipped, but we don't show simple courtesy of saving the water. Now climate change is given us message: you mend your way, otherwise you will be suffering. So it's an initiative for us. We have to act upon that. Similarly, every waste what we think, it is a wealth. Everybody knows that. So promote global climate change, whatever things are happening, we should convert this as resources.
Thank you, Dr. Manogar, again, for highlighting the role of a local government, especially subnational level, in driving the climate resilience, especially in water management and urban sustainability. Now, at this moment, to hand over to my co-moderator, Professor Deepthi, to lead the discussion with other esteemed speakers.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajni. It is very interesting to hear from Judith about this multidisciplinarity in terms of engagement from from the EU to the local level. And also, it's very heartening to know from Dr. Ram that we will not have a water crisis this summer. However, let's not keep our goal to a very short-term, level, and we have to think longer, right? And that should be the objective of each one of us after having understood the significance or the criticality of this issue. So I would now just quickly try to, bring in our other two esteemed co-panelists here who come from the business, world, but they have in their own organizations done a lot of impactful work in terms of mitigation they have already taken care of, but in terms of adaptation and resilience. However, often there is this confusion and this way of interchangeably using the word adaptation and resilience, which I would just like to place in context before we begin. When the IPCC defines adaptation, it defines it as a process taken to adjust to the actual or expected climate and its effects. And resilience is described as that capacity to build, to anticipate and cope with the shocks, to recover from these impacts while incurring minimal damage to societal well-being, economy, and the environment, right? So we cannot underestimate the role that we play in society and how impacts of climate change, like Judith was mentioning in terms of financing, can have implications. So when we talk about adaptation and resilience, we have to be very clear about, not using it interchangeably, but also sometimes using it interchangeably in terms of the context in which the organization talks about it. So my question first is to Mr. Srinivasa from Toyota Kirloskar Motor. The automobile industry is undergoing a major shift towards sustainability. How is your company embedding carbon neutrality and circular economy principles into its processes? Because you have it ingrained into your culture from a very long time. But with the buzz now around this issue, how is it that you are trying to portray yourself as being far ahead in terms of understanding of this approach?
Yeah, thank you, Deepti madam. Just now we heard from Judith and also Manohar sir. The Europe is any country on this planet. When we talk about environment conservation or regulation, we head up and look towards Europe. So that's achievement they have made in this industrial era. So there's a lot to learn from them. And Europe has traveled a very long. But Indian government now they realized the new generation, the Gen Z, doesn't have patience to travel step by step towards Europe. So and they're ready to jump. So Indian government has taken up a task to carry forward 150 crore people to jump to move towards Europe. It's a humongous task. So I can realize the pressure on the government authorities to move the people from one place to other place. So and excellent examples on the ground has been shared by sir. Just to connect with that, Toyota also believes that every problem is a golden egg. Is a philosophy we have adopted. And we realized that we cannot depend on Kaveri water. We started our journey and now we are 90% self-reliant with respect to water in manufacturing, with rainwater and recycling water. And only 10% we are consuming water in the month of February to May, that too for the manufacturing critical purposes. Otherwise, we are using these things. And also we have adopted this, this air, for the tap, we have adopted whatever Manohar sir said in our entire company. And that has benefited in huge water consumption reduction, cost of water consumption, treatment cost, wastewater generation. And thousands of our families have carried forward to their home. And they have shared their case studies. We have adopted in our home these things in our home also. And even personally, I stopped BWSSB water valve on May 23rd. And I opened it on Jan 1st. I have adopted the rainwater collection and reuse. So I paid only the minimum water bill to the BWSSB. So these are the very simple things. I think consumerism is the only thing which can protect this planet. So all this education, business, everything is to build happier and healthier world for every life which is on this planet. And also Toyota believes in respect for the planet. So accordingly, we are working. And just to jump into the climate change, yes, the climate change, greenhouse gas inventarization, more than 73% of the global GHG emissions are from energy. In that, especially the industrial power consumption, energy consumption, and also the transport sector itself accounts to more than about 45%. So that shows how important it is to drive in the industrial sector, apart from the domestic energy consumption sector. In the industrial sector, if we take Toyota, we work from the beginning to end. That means the life, cradle to grave was the earlier concept. Now it is cradle to cradle. Cradle means it is not after the vehicle comes out. Means for us, cradle means the day we are conceived in the womb of our mother is the initiation of a human being. Same way, automobile cradle is the mining ore, where we start mining the materials, transporting it, melting, making materials, making components, making parts, then manufacture automobiles, then sell it to the customers through the dealers, and then customers will use it. That's one more most important aspect. Then at the end of life, bringing it back into the circular economy to reborn. So this is the entire life cycle. If we take in this, the climate change, the biggest impact is on the usage phase. In the usage, in the product, how we can reduce the CO2 emissions per kilometer what we are traveling. In this, we have adopted a multi-path approach. We are working on electrified vehicles, not battery electric vehicles. We are working on electrified vehicles. We have all the technology. That is hybrid vehicles, plug-in hybrid, hydrogen fuel cell, electric vehicle technology, all these things. And also the hybrid is an integration of ICE as well as the electric vehicle. It's an integrated one. And now we are on the path to travel to the middle version where we are working on hybrids predominantly. Then over the period, based on the infrastructure setup and the customer demand, we will move towards other technologies. So this is how Toyota is working. Just by introducing two hybrid models in India, which are manufactured here, and another 3-4 imported and sold, we could bring down almost more than 40 million kgs of CO2 reduction within 1 year. This is the contribution we can make in the product. This is one. Then on the second aspect in the climate change, the biggest thing is material. For material, we have adopted circular economy. We are adopting circular economy. Like steel manufacturing goes from 2 tons to 3 tons per steel manufacturing, CO2 emissions per steel manufacturing. But when you put it back to recycling, it optimizes the cost. It does not only reduces the carbon dioxide emissions to 75%. It doesn't reduce only that. It also optimizes the cost, and it also makes sure that the materials are available for our next generation to be utilized. The basic definition of sustainability is we use, we enjoy, and we leave equal amount to our next generation so that they will also enjoy the privilege what we enjoyed. So that's a basic sustainability definition. And some case studies is in our entire value chain, we are driving this energy efficiency, renewable energy, and more than 30% suppliers have adopted the renewable energy. And we have a target by 2050, we will be achieving zero CO2 in our entire value chain. We are working on sustainable mobility for our logistics operations. And our dealers, entire dealers, we have an eco dealership guideline. And 16% of dealer energy is coming from the renewable energy sources. Like this, we are working on the entire value chain. But first, we have to demonstrate. So in our manufacturing is running on 100% renewable energy. Not only our plant, our big manufacturing facility of 400 plus acres. All along with us, 7 on-site suppliers are also running on 100% renewable energy from 2021, which has contributed in reducing, offsetting 450,000 tons of CO2 in last 4 years. So this is the contribution in the climate change. And we are moving forward. Our next challenge is on the biogas, which we use in our paint shop to bake the product after painting. So with this, we are very confident in our manufacturing. We'll be moving towards zero CO2 very soon. And also in our value chain, we'll be accomplishing advanced timeline compared to the globally defined timelines by our Toyota. This is on the climate change aspect and also the circular economy efforts what we are trying to work in. I've talked about steel. We are focusing on 4 materials now: steel, aluminum, resin, then copper, and the battery. These are the 5 materials we are working so that we can put back these materials into the system to ensure that our material consumption optimizes and it is sustainable, and we leave some materials for next generation also.
What you're saying about leaving for the next generation. In fact, we talk about intergenerational these days, right? Planting trees is just not enough for the next generation. We have cut down so many trees that we need to think about intergenerational ways in which these trees can really grow and nourish. It's just not enough if we think about the next 30 years or 100 years. But to just, ask a follow-up question to you, what are the regulatory enablers and key advancements that are critical for accelerating innovation in terms of the technological way in which we look at innovation towards this direction? Because we are in the generation of artificial intelligence and a lot of app-based creators who would like to contribute to this concept of circular economy, as we were discussing earlier. So how do you think, where do you think there are potential for people to collaborate with corporates like you in terms of understanding technological innovation?
Towards this climate change mitigation, I think everybody have to come on a collaboration. The technology, consumers, the government, the producers, everybody have to come on a common platform. I think we have to work on a electrified technology rather than only an electric technology. And also the future things what are getting introduced, there has to be a framework to subsidize those things. And also introduce them in the public domain first. I think India is taking lead in that. India is showing its leadership by putting up hydrogen-based trains and hydrogen-based vehicles, electric buses. And India is one of the countries which is leading climate change across the world. This is the way to go forward, and also how to give subsidies for the research and development. And also the future technology manufacturing requires the latest technology equipments, which currently we may not have capability. How do we bring in the taxation incentives and other things to bring them here to initiate so that we can move towards real make in India with the development over a period of time. And along with this, maybe the R&D with the association with academia. How do we put academia into R&D with respect to the futuristic sustainable solutions required for this society to collaborate between all these people? So bring all of them together and bring R&D along with academia, and then provide subsidized or special focus, special efforts to bring in these technologies. Then obviously the technology and IoT connected cars, which will help in reducing the traffic. I think now maybe we are losing huge fuel and also huge emissions coming out because of the traffic jams. Kilometers together traffic jams, and to travel 10 kilometers, many times we spend more than an hour, out of which 20% is used for traveling and 80% is getting burnt in the traffic signals. So these type of things, if we can improve as a collective through our policy efforts, all these things, and the government drive, and also the most important of all of this is how do we bring this sensitivity among the common people of India who are still struggling to earn their livelihood in many places. We look at Bangalore or the metro cities, so looks like very easy. But when we travel to the farther cities and the rural villages, they are still very far away. How do we bring them onto the mainstream and bring them to understand these things by increasing their livelihoods is a key to succeed. All these collaborations will work in tandem. This is the key and foundation which we have to look forward, I believe.
It's very well said. Thank you so much, Mr. Srinivas, for those wonderful insights. I'll now move to our last panelist, but last but not the least, Denuka. Businesses play a vital role in sustainability and transformations in society. How is ABB aligning its operations with global climate?
Thank you. I think this is a fantastic session. You know, the very fact that global climate change is now going to be not reversible. 20 years ago, we talked about mitigation and adaptation, and now don't have a time to even do mitigation. It's more adaptation, adopt technologies, adopt systems, have behavioral change among individuals to cope with the rapid urbanization that's leading to anthropogenic, speeding up of the climate change. And people are now talking about linking climate change to their daily life, be it increased precipitation in Bangalore, inundation that couple of years ago we never thought of, extreme weather events being proceeding with heavy summers and very cold winters. So people very, very at a local level, at educated middle class level, talk about climate change impacting their life, right? But when you talk about policy per se, I've been in this field for over 25 years, from policy analysis to research, and now being part of the corporate sustainability team. I think the key to it is, as rightly said by my speaker next door, I cannot wait for actions to be driven by international policies or goals, but take proactive approaches that can be handled at a local level. Right, India essentially contributes only to 4% of the overall CO2 emissions, while we only have about 17% per capita in terms of the emission. There's always been a negotiation of north-south divide, and we have a large, ambitious development goal ahead. And then we also have this aspects of how do you add on to a responsible behavior at a country level, at a local level, to address climate change. To answer your question, I think as a corporate, I think we kind of move beyond the boundaries, beyond compliance. I think Government of India has been very proactive in the last few years to bring in a lot of policies, both at the local level and also for corporates like us, right? Be it an extended product responsibility, be it plastic-based management rules that have come into play. We also have mandatory requirement for disclosure across varied parameters, moving towards more and more reducing your scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. And scope 3, mind you, it's almost 65% of your total emissions for a company's operation. So thereby the entire ecosystem is something that is put on the head of large corporates like us to manage. Like my colleague mentioned, we look at supply chain. And supply chain consists of MSMEs, small vendors, large suppliers, some of the big MNCs also being part of a vendor stream. But how do you make them prioritize sustainability goals when they are grappling with profit and loss at a small level? But we can do that. And that's an exercise that's given to large corporates like us. So we handhold suppliers. We kind of push them the needle to say that it makes sense for you to move ahead in terms of addressing energy goals, have policies, have systems, and then thereby address our own internal goals. And another big positive at the ecosystem level for corporates like us is essentially enabling policies. Like I think in Government of India, there are a lot of renewable energy policies and incentives that are being promoted. So for our net zero commitment, both for scope 1 and scope 2, we try to source renewable energy as much as possible. Of course, scope 3 is going to be tight because once you're saturating with your basic scope 1 and scope 2, scope 3 is something that we have to deal with as an ecosystem, and it's not going to be a single corporate responsibility. Thereby, the entire ecosystem comes in. Another big enabler, which I would like to reiterate, is the aspect of corporate social responsibility, which I also handle within ABB. So the policy regime is essentially putting in corporates like us to be socially responsible. And a lot of companies are moving away from the traditional community, education, healthcare to climate resilient technologies and adaptation as well. It is quite challenging, but you need to have the right parties. We also fund, special universities and technical research, which can be pivotal in bringing in new technologies that can be adapted. And that is something that is very allowable. We partner with multitude of institutes like IITs and the like for, battery research, from moving in standard batteries to lithium ion, which again moves into the automobile industry and thereby. So the entire ecosystem, there are a lot of enablers. And as an organization, we tap each one of them proactively and not wait for compliance to push us, but to be proactive in addressing it. And it's not going to be an easy answer on how you can customize solutions to address climate change, but at each stakeholder level, I think there are opportunities. And some of the common issues, I think it has to be a multi-stakeholder engagement like what we are discussing right now.
Yeah, that's very interesting. The way you look at partnership with organizations to leverage technology. But if I can ask you further, when we look at local climate challenges, the key is also to address them with traditional knowledge systems locally, understanding that ecosystem there. So, is there any example that you would like to share with us? About any local issue that was tackled with that nuance in any country in the world. But that brings in that essential element or that underlying thought that local is the way to go in addressing climate problems, because those problems are very, very, local in nature. They may not manifest in the same manner in a different place, whether it is extreme events, climate events, or whether it is something related to a water source close by, or related to an earthquake striking there, or hurricane hitting that coast. So it's very local in terms of how the local community also has kind of addressed it, through their own scope of traditional wisdom. So I know this is a very challenging way to look at it, but I think, is there an
I think there are lots of case studies. I'm trying to grapple my thought to bring in case studies that are active. So some of the common areas where local has addressed it is typically in rural setup, be it agriculture or inclusion of, biogas common community level plants. I think this was a thought process by World Bank almost 20 years ago, where communities would come up with a common biogas plant for their access to clean energy needs, right? And that is a local solution to address to the local needs. But the question is, how do you bridge the gap in terms of the financial model being viable? Okay, that's something that I see as a very clear, case study. Another in the corporate sustainability world is, I think, the circularity approach, right? I think industrial corridors where we are moving away in terms of land use category with specific industry categories coming into play, there can be a circular economy developed based on the need of one company to another, right? And this has been a tested model in Holland. I think well-known case studies, but there are also smaller pockets of that's happening in India, be it between a cement industry and a plastic recycler, or plastic recycling waste going into road infrastructure. But that has to be cohesive in a way that it is also cost effective for companies to adopt. So there are smaller examples, but I think to make it viable, it has to be a well thought of, well planned activity. Because if you're going to have a product that is going to aid the sustainability, we should also have the access to it, and there should be the complete chain of activities linked to it through an operational level, which is something that we see in pockets but not happening in full. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, there are so many ways in which we can discuss this problem, but before we, have a final wrap up and take questions from the audience, I know a lot of our audience are waiting to ask questions. Before we do that, I would ask each one of you to, make your concluding remarks and make it in the context of what is that one key action that you would like these three different stakeholders to kind of tackle. One is governments, one is the industries, and the other is the communities. So these three stakeholder groups, if you can think of what is that one key, action that they can take. Short term, we would definitely like that to be in a very, focused manner. So if you would like to, kind of contextualize it in that way, what would it be for each one of you? I think we'll start with Srinivas.
So I think for the first step should be dialogue, an open dialogue to listen to each other's. So where all of us will come to a common understanding and we understand the reality of each of the stakeholder, where they are standing and what is that expecting, what they are expecting, currently where they are standing. Then what is that all of us should do jointly? If we can come to that conclusion, then remaining thing will happen smoothly. And the first and foremost biggest challenge is bringing all these people on a common platform to discuss openly and to receive openly, to talk openly, to come to a common conclusion on what and how we should proceed. Then remaining things, definitely once all three of us are in a common platform, it's easy. it will start flowing smoothly. I think this is the first thing which we must focus with all three stakeholders.
Right, because for each of them, it could be a different definition depending on the problems that they are facing. That's a very nice perception. Judith?
Thank you. So my answer was actually also going in the same direction, bringing everyone together, like sitting around symbolically around the same table and advancing a better understanding of each other's perspective. And as you also said, definition of certain keynotes that we all throw into this discussion today, so that the, those missing links can be overcome in developing a joint solution. And the second part maybe is also to, in this multi-stakeholder setup, to also understand that governance does not end with, or is not, solely held by the government as such. It also should extend in terms of designing concepts and solutions to the implementation stage and to the micro level, as in the local person who might be affected by certain climate change related problems, and feed that back into the broader scheme, into the broader mechanism of governance, into the political decision making level as well. So that's probably the only additional note I would add to my speaker next to me.
Thank you. Thanks, Judith. Dr. Ram?
So I also strongly emphasize upon our friends' approach. But as a government body, as a governance system, we have to be a facilitator for all this process. First, to understand the problems of climate change and its impact on the local people, and to use the academic or research and development agencies to develop the technologies, and use the manufacturer industries to scale up those technologies to deliver to the as a product to the solution for the community need. And the government should facilitate all these three processes, because it's a sovereignty. So you have all the other powers and responsibilities as a authority, and also as a regulator, as a facilitator, and we have sufficient resources to pull. So therefore, I feel the government should not play a major role, but government should play a facilitator role to enable all this ecosystem to develop and sustain, that this becomes a, from problem to solution, this circular tie-up should be done by the government in association with all the stakeholders, be it industries, be it multilateral organizations, be it farmers or communities, all across the people. So it's a widespread role it has to play. That's what my opinion is.
Right, that's very well said. Renuka?
I think I take two sides to the coin. I think one, from a corporate setup, as rightly said, have public-private partnerships work. When you talk about communities, it's very loosely said. In urban systems, communities are eroding, right? So you should have an institutional body. When you talk about communities in the rural setup, you have a clear jurisdiction within a panchayat framework or within a gram panchayat, where we can think about things work. But at a larger urban infrastructure kind of a thing, I think there has to be public-private partnerships involved. And what those are as a priority, I think government, if they can come back to corporates and say, this is what it is, and being a prominent player in a geography, can you help with us? And then becomes easier to kind of prioritize, number one. Number two, I take the side of the communities, and I think we're doing a project with CE. I think behavioral change and awareness to children, and I'm talking about government school children at the primary, secondary, higher level. Climate change is very loosely talked about, but the linkages on what an individual can contribute comes up with awareness creation at the school level, right? So we are trying to do that as a special module to talk about, how as an individual, as a child, you can play a part, be it in energy conservation or resource conservation, act as an agent within your community. I think that becomes very, very important. And as corporates, we have the wherewithal to partner with organization to scale it up as much as possible. And I think that if it's going to be to the next level, it's going to take time, but another 5 to 10 years, they become the anchor for their world in terms of what is climate change and how they're going to take action. Yeah, these are the 2 points I'd like to close on. Thank you.
I think the panelists very nicely tied in all the elements, that is necessary. I think it also comes with the vast experience that they bring with them, and the ability of them to very positively look for solutions. I really felt that each one of you was really, hopeful And that's something that I, really recommend, because we should not be getting into that doomsday narrative when it comes to climate action, right? Yes.
Just to extend my this thing about the dialogue, once we start the dialogue, then the behavior change will also be a one of the outcome of that. Everybody realize what I need to change. That realization is the first step. Then we are coming out with what is required, what is the problem. As sir told, problem is the golden egg. So then there are many brilliant brains in India who pick up that problem and work towards solution, like hackathons. Our new entrepreneurships will grow from that. So many people will jump in to bring solutions to contribute to the society. Now everybody are not aware where to do, what to do. So if this common dialogue of common these things to come, this thing will have a lot of advantages on both the sides. Self-realization and also bringing external issues to solve.
Yes. I think we take a few questions from the audience before we conclude. I would request, yeah. Please mention to whom your question is directed, and also kind of introduce yourselves before you ask your question.
Good evening to all. Uh, the household consumption is causing more than 60% of our global emissions, global carbon emissions. But there is still a very less dialogue on how the household or how the individual behavior should be. Everyone is talking, means in news we see, or in roundtable conference also we are seeing, the focus is on what the government should do, what the businesses should do. There is still less dialogue on how the uh, household or individual consumption should be. Rather, in fact, our focus is on increasing the consumption, which is actually going reverse the direction of climate change. So, how do we deal with, if we suppose reduce the individual or household consumption, economy or businesses may suffer. So, how to balance this two contradicting things is, I think so. The dialogue is needs to be there. So my question will be directed to businesses or maybe manors or also.
Your your understanding is that the solutions has to be implemented by individual only, though government. Yeah, you're correct, absolutely. So we are advocating for individuals to act upon. Ultimately, in my own instant case, that fixing the aerator has to be done by an individual. When he consumes less, he also pays for the technology and the aerator. So ultimately, instead of paying to the water, he is paying to the aerator. It's a new opportunity, but in a way, he is also reducing the resource exploitation, over exploitation. So that's how I always say that this is an opportunity. So, like waterless urinal, same thing. It is going to cost. It's going to develop so much business. It's going to reduce the use of resources, like renewable resources. So renewable resources, just by reducing the usage of fossil fuel, we are going to reduce the emission. But same way, it has given up a lot of industries in terms of solar panel manufacturing and transmission systems and technologies. So in a way, always the sustainable use of resources which cannot be created by human being can be minimized by use of technology, which can be a business point. So it will give a business opportunity. That's my opinion.
I can add here. So I talk from an angle of an individual user, right? It's a market and demand supply. So if you as a consumer demand a certain type of product or a need, that's where you govern the entire market. For example, if there is an opportunity, like he said, to undo what is done, then it gives businesses for us to come in and have a business model around it. But as an individual at a household level, as a consumption, I think we're moving tremendously towards a materialistic world, right? And if you as an individual, as a family, your wants and needs are very well thought of and trained, and not go with the bandwagon of what others are doing, you still have a capability to ride your direction in terms of lesser resource conservation. It can come hard, But that's where I'm talking about an individual behavioral change. I'm not talking from the angle of a business as a corporate. This is as an individual, as a consumer side of it, right? So you actually demand the market on what you want, be it energy efficient products, be it sustainable lifestyle, be it moving away from materialist things, uh, be it moving away from retail giants. It's your call, and not one. Multiple people like you start to follow, actually do the demand market and demand supply to most of the things. Yeah.
Some more questions, sir.
I'll just add 2 points. One is Government of India started Mission Life. If you just refer that, it's an amazing consolidation of how to lead a sustainable lifestyle. And if you come to our company, how we drive this from the environment department. During Environment Month, we promote Sustainable Family Award. So in energy, water, chemical consumption, waste generation, in the entire home and in transportation, including transportation at the home, how each family is adopting the best practices. And each family, the best award winner, the family will be called to the company and the reward is given from MD. And their case studies are published in our eco newsletter. So it reaches thousands of families. And you can see that people have started making the chemicals from orange peels and organic compost, rooftop garden. So many things have evolved, and many people started selling this organic chemicals derived from this. So, like this, things will start evolve. Now it's happening in patches, but I'm sure with the government drive, it gets into the basic education along with what we are studying as a science and maths. We study as a life also. How to lead the sustainable life also is one of the subject.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anirudh. I'm currently a student in the postgraduate program in public policy and management. So, my understanding regarding climate change is that technology is a critical component of building resilience, mitigating climate change, and adapting to it. Now, our private sector, I was listening to some of the comments that we need more incentives for investing in R&D. And even in the Western world, many such technologies have developed. So my question is what is stopping us from upscaling it? What are the challenges you face in investing in R&D, and what are the challenges faced by the West in spreading this technology? Because climate change is not something which is stopped by borders. Ultimately it is a global issue. So what are the challenges you are facing in addressing these issues?
Yeah, let me take a cue from this. See, about R&D, what I talked about, like Madam said, it's on a value chain. In the value chain, we have medium, small entrepreneurs and micro enterprises, which are living on a daily earnings. So there, if we don't level up them towards next level, we cannot talk about sustainability. For them, we may be a OEM who have global business, and we have R&D. We have our own R&D area, not R&D center or this thing. So maybe we have, but other companies, and also climate change technologies available worldwide. They are available, and also climate change doesn't have the boundary, but economy has the boundary. So these things. So somewhere, if you look at China, it's one of the classic case study. They bring up manufacturing with such a low cost because they are investing so much in R&D and academia. They involve academia, R&D. They are investing so much. They are coming up with so many new technologies every year to produce with a low cost, low energy, new technology. Now BYD in the energy vehicle, it's one of the best in the world. Maybe I don't say one of the best, but it's one of the most economical and economically best product. So which is evolving and catching up with the world. So in this aspect, maybe some area where futuristic areas needs incentivization. Only incentivization never solves any problem. In first, adoption of people, and then where it is challenge for getting the technology, support from the government with the country geopolitical policy, and also some incentivization.
I just add on, on the component that you mentioned regarding the Western world, maybe also sharing technology. So from my experience in working in this field of EU-India projects where businesses were also involved, a key learning also for companies, for example, from Germany, is that solutions or technologies have to be developed as per the local requirements. So there might be a perfect technology that suits the European market or any other market, but it doesn't apply necessarily to, let's say, a rural area in India. It's crucial, again, coming back to the points we all made, to understand what is actually the issue and how can the solution be financed, who is involved, and how can the solution be set up in a way that it's viable in itself. And there, of course, comes the cost component, because technology companies, they might have to rethink or re-engineer their solutions when it comes to such climate-related technologies in other countries where there's a huge potential for scale-up as well. I think these are like the paradigm shifting points that are crucial, and many companies do that very successfully, of course, that they manage to transition to that and take into account the local circumstances, which is key. Otherwise, it won't really work. So.
Okay, you can ask.
Yeah. Good evening to all. I'm Jayant Ramchandran. I'm also from Ministry of Railways in the Public Policy course. So my question is to Dr. Ram. This is regarding that, as you know, that Bangalore is dependent heavily on the groundwater because Kaveri is not able to cater to the full requirement. So what are the measures in place which BWSSB trying to enforce that to prevent the groundwater pollution? Because like there is a tendency, we have heard cases wherever these borewells dried up, so they are used to dispose of these chemical wastes, so that can lead to pollution of the entire groundwater table, which is a very critical issue. So any steps BWSSB has taken?
Basically, we want to protect this aquifer. That's why either by hydrating this aquifer by putting more rainwater into the system, and also we want to emphasis upon shifting from groundwater to surface water. There is a Kaveri water. So overall, to protect the groundwater, we have to use more of rainwater harvesting system only. The incident of polluting that borewell with the chemical is maybe a very rare case. It may not be a sporadic or widespread instances, because that may not be the case, because every conscious citizen may not do that. I believe that. Even though if such cases are there, we will be able to take action. But most importantly, more than pollution, what is hitting us in groundwater is that over exploitation of the aquifer. Right now, the shallow aquifer up to 1,000 feet have been already exploited. And now we are going down and down, and we don't know where we will hit. So finally, it is about more of sustainable use of groundwater by regularly recharging with rainwater and shifting to the Kaveri water and responsible use of the available fresh water. These are the solutions which we are thinking for Bangalore in a long-term basis. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Akhil from Ministry of Railways. My question is directed to Denuka ma'am and Srinivasa sir, and which is, how well do our climate solutions which we have perceived address the affordability and the convenience needs of the customers who are going to adopt it and are key to this transition of sustainability?
Yeah, I think that's a very broad, general, good question. So I would talk from an angle of a B2B industry, like where I come from. And I think there are scalable models, and there are where we have invested heavily on R&D, and we actually aid the sustainable agenda of our clients, essentially, be it energy efficient motors or coming up with AI solutions and remote monitoring systems. All of them have tremendous kind of an input in reducing your energy usage. So, and some of these solutions are also customized for a customer need, be it an oil and gas or a cement industry. We do customized solutions, thereby that's our business in terms of. So I talk from that angle, but in terms of scalable technology modules for consumers and communities is a completely different game. I'm not going to talk about that. I always have that two sides of the coin but from a B2B, especially, we have very good tested solutions which aid the agenda of our clients in terms of addressing sustainability, especially energy, reducing their footprint?
If I want to just rephrase it, I was telling from the point of view that whatever businesses are basically in whatever domain they are working, ultimately they are selling something to the customer.
Yeah.
The customers are very key to this transition that we are envisaging. So unless and until we make it lucrative for the customers, how well are we basically going to adopt to the sustainability measures? That was my key question. So if we pass on the cost to the customers, will they be able to adopt? Are we going to force it? Is the industry going to absorb it? How are we going to go ahead? So is that a key question in the mind of people who are driving the streets? That was basically my question.
No, I think that's a very interesting question. I think customers are very well aware of the sustainability and the added cost if it might that they buy in. Like for example, be energy efficient products, right? I kind of go down to that. It's now a norm when you go in and buy for electronic product at an individual consumer level for the understanding of everybody. You would pay a premium to get a five-star rating, and customers are well aware of the differences between a 3-star, a 2-star, and a 5-star. Similarly, our customers are very well aware of the sustainability agenda and the cost that might increase, and most of the big companies like us are willing to pay because we have our sustainability as a priority in the agenda. As simple as that. And sometimes going forward, it might not be an option for you to choose, but you're actually pushed to pay additionally to undo what you've done bad in the past. As simple as that.
No, there is also one more aspect of this issue. Basically, we should, what you're telling is also correct, because the business of sustainability should not become the business. And it should be a part of the entire ecosystem. The long-term benefit of sustainable use of resources, in terms of resources as well as in terms of cost, should be absorbed over a period of time. It cannot be like, no, it's an opportunity, I will kill the golden egg laying goose. Like that, we should not entirely pass on to the customer the whole cost. Whatever the cost of that should inbuilt to regenerate the revenue by way of cutting the cost or way of increasing the income. That should be the going forward. Any sustainable technology should have inbuilt mechanism to generate its own resources, its own revenue. Like that, what you are saying, low electrical cars. If you use fossil fuel, then yes, of course, there may be a people with charity mind that, oh, I will use electrical vehicle to save the planet. But ultimately, the human mind is so selfish, and it has to see the benefit in terms of monetary terms and also in terms of non-monetary terms. Then only it will be a successful business product. That has to be kept in the minds of the developers who are developing the product for mass consumption. Of course, for class consumption, you say sustainable 5-star rating, people will buy that. For mass consumption, if you develop a product, the cost of developing the technology should be recovered by minimizing the use of the resources. Thank you.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a very apt question. See, finally, whether policymakers, government, our industry, our people, so nobody will bear any cost. Even government will not bear any cost. Whatever incentive they give, it finally goes on to the user only. Finally, and even what we invest will also go on the user only. Maybe all of us can shrink some of the profit or what we keep together. Customer will shrink something so that together we can work. And let me give some 3 examples to make it understand. First, government started LED bulb with some discount on some 250 rupees per LED. Now, nobody is asking for any discount. Every home, even in the remotest village, are going for LED tube lights without any this thing. Nobody are using incandescent light. This is one. Next, renewable energy. Government started with incentive to initiate that momentum. But now we are leading the world in the renewable energy, and renewable energy is sold at 1 rupee 50 paisa. So every sustainable initiative is cost economical. See, we recycle the wastewater. We save 65 rupees per meter cube of wastewater by recycling the wastewater compared to the freshwater cost. So per day, the cost saving is more than 2 lakh rupees. That much will definitely get passed on. Some portion will get passed on to the customer. Same way, renewable energy adoption. We are saving more than 200 million in a year through renewable energy. It's not that it's expensive. We are saving only because of the government incentive. So this is how everybody are working together in tandem so that the technology grows, then it doesn't require anybody's support. And anything on environment, whether waste reduction, circular economy, or water recycling, or climate renewable energy, all these will directly add on to profitability of an individual. Today, the classic case study is our high cross. We have a petrol high cross, we have a hybrid high cross. Hybrid high cross, even though it's a bit expensive, we have a demand running 6 months waiting period for the hybrid, just because customer is gaining from that huge vehicle giving a huge fuel economy with the hybrid. So this is a win-to-win situation is happening, which is driving the technology towards the future.
Yeah, very good evening, sir. My question is from Mr. Ram. How do department is addressing the challenges issue like illegal water connections or illegal borewell, and also now the imposition of penalty of usage of drinking water for non-essential purpose. Around the year, how it is department is vigilant about it and using, because I know very soon we are getting the price hike of water tariff also.
So from sustainability, you have talked to management. So naturally, every man will look any subject into their own perspective. Yes, it's a managerial issue, and we are having these issues at a very lower level. The illegal connections or illegal borewells, that needs lot of enforcement mechanism. We have only 5,000 people working in the ground, but that is insufficient. But still, we are using the technologies. I will come to the point. We will use the technology for improving the enforcement. We are planning to introduce a smart meter so that we will be able to get into this illegal letting of water into our system, or illegal extraction of our water, or not paying the money on time. All those issues can be solved. Like this, I see even borewells also. Borewell also, we want to tag these rigs with GPS technology so that wherever they go, we get to know where they are going. So like this, technology is the only solution in case if you are facing with the human resource challenge. Of course, we have the human resource challenge, but over a period of time, we'll use the technology to solve these managerial issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we take one final question before we. We'll ask you what's it.
Hello. Good evening, panel, and good evening, everyone else who's present here. I'm Rajdeep Dasgupta, an undergraduate student at Christ University. My question is a bit of a socio-political question, but when we talk about climate change, we often, and basically carbon emissions, we often, two countries often stand out, which are India and China, when it comes to leading the world in terms of carbon emissions. However, India, at least India and even China to a certain extent, these countries actually have some of the lowest per capita carbon emissions in the world. And in fact, some of the countries with the highest amount of carbon emissions per capita are some of the industrial and economic powerhouses that we know of, such as Germany, France, the United States, and so on. And also, one more thing being, when we speak about industrial development, Western nations or the Western world basically, had their fair chance at development, at industrial development in these 18th and 19th centuries. And they had to do so without having the, burden, or basically without the ambition of a very sustainable development, or, whilst keeping climate actions or ambitions in mind. Whereas some of the developing countries that we see, not just India, but all of these, Asian countries and even some African nations, some of these countries are expected to develop while keeping sustainable goals and ambitious plans in mind, which is, kind of fair. We're supposed to keep ambitious plans regarding climate change in mind. However, how do we ensure that there is, fair burden sharing when it comes to this? And because there's the global north and there's the global south, so there is not an equitable burden sharing when it comes to climate action goals. That's my question.
So I think one important point that you mentioned is, of course, the different paces and the historical development of industrialization. So you cannot, you can compare it, but it's a different history to the industrialization in Europe versus global South, as you have mentioned, very broadly speaking. And of course, the learning curve, let's again come back to Europe or its member states, has been spanned out across a quite long timeline, basically. The position that India finds itself in right now is the opportunity to leapfrog certain development stages. So we don't have to really go through the same kind of repeat certain, I wouldn't call it, yeah, maybe mistakes or certain practices, but go ahead and innovate and overcome the kind of challenges that are not only ahead of us, but also presently kind of, steering the debates that you have referred to in terms of per capita emission and so on. And this is indeed, and that also kind of showcases in daily practice a great possibility that I believe India seizes very well. And it was also recognized as the leading voice of the Global South in the G20 Summit 2023, where this has really been prominently highlighted. And also together with Germany, for example, in the strategic partnership, India and Germany, they work on development projects in Africa where best practices from both Germany and India can be applied and then scaled up as well. The responsibility aspect that you have addressed is, of course, also one important point. And I think looking at the projects, the climate finance projects that are ongoing, and also the impact that the European Union is making here, the kind of investments that are flowing out in terms of concessional loans or grants, is quite, immense, because again, there is the intrinsic understanding that we cannot tackle climate change in isolation or just by looking into our own needs or objectives, but it's a global problem and it's a global challenge that we can only turn into, again, coming back to the golden egg, if we work together as a global family on it, because climate change doesn't know any borders. So yeah, I hope that I could answer a few of your points at least. Maybe you can add.
Thank you. It's a very important question. It comes under fair and equitable sharing. It's a matter of debate, and also it's a matter of action. It's being discussed in all conference of parties each year, and there's a huge difference between equity and equality. So India inherently, you might be knowing Vasudeva Kudumbakam, they say inherently most of our practices are climate proactive. So we are by nature. Then why this differences while we are in the growth phase, not to repeat the same mistake that developed countries has done. Though we are at least in emission level, we are humble enough to take action, to take measures. So life, as Sarah slightly mentioned, life, for example, like that, the example from India. From the country to rest of the nations, though we are less emitters. So one is like not doing the same mistake in our country. We are in the very crucial stage, developing nation. And secondly, like we are humble in nature, though we are emitter, we are still acting proactively. And there's the climate finance is coming into play. You might be knowing carbon finance. So that is the one way that developed countries found the hoping mechanism, funding for what they have done. In a way, like funding or investing for what mistake they have done, investing in the countries like India and China, mostly for India, to promote this climate, both adaptation and mitigation projects. And now, if you watch like the recent conference of parties, Article 6.2 and 6.4, particularly talking about the climate finance, that's being streamlined and formalized. That so, result is that many global investors are interested to fund and deviate their funding on carbon financing, that we can take as an opportunity to improve our climate action, to be an example to the rest of the world.
It's a historical question. I'm interested in history. What you are telling is also true, but the point is that The World War One and Two has fueled the industrialization of Europe, and that has given a lot of business opportunity for Western countries to develop the products and sell across the globe. Now we are in India having a golden opportunity. Now having understood this dynamics of sustainability, and it is going to be a business for future, then Indian companies can very well develop the technologies and become a global leader in promoting the sustainability as a business model and get more prosperity. Rather than seeing sustainability as an obstacle to the development, we should see that as sustainability as a stepping stone to the development. That's where our opportunity lies. In fact, renewable energy front, as rightly told, when we were using the fossil fuels, we were spending more than 3 rupees, 4 rupees. We were purchasing the power from the outside. Now, the current rate of purchase of power is only 2 rupees. Can you remember? Can you believe it? When we are using imported fossil, we were paying 4 rupees 50 paise. Now it's only 2 rupees. That's how we convert this as an opportunity. And India is at the right moment, at the right time. And with all your leadership in various fields, definitely you just think wherever you go in the field, you see that can we use this sustainability as a business prosperous model? Can we make this as a sustainability challenge into a business solution so that we can earn money as well as we can develop India? That's how we have to look this issue, and it's a golden opportunity. And you are very young among all, so you have more opportunity now. Thank you.
I always tell this that the young people in my classroom and even wherever I go to give talks, they're very sensitive towards the questions that they pose about climate change, and they're very thought provoking, in fact. So it is a good time to involve them also. You mentioned multi-stakeholder engagement. It is a very good time to involve the youth because they constitute a majority in our population. This particular amount of things. So it is very interesting to see the kind of deep sensitivity that they have towards this issue. Yeah. We just take one final question and then we can wrap in place.
Hello, everyone. I'm Srishti and I work as a sustainability consultant. So my question is primarily to Mr. Manohar, but I'm open to hear from other panelists as well. So the complexity of addressing climate issues ranges from business level, and it's a different level as soon as we enter value chain. And I can only imagine how complex it is to address it at a societal level. So, and it was very impressive to just hear the sheer impact we had through the individual contributions while you were mentioning earlier. So taking a cue from what Judith was mentioning earlier, I'm interested and curious to know what role would decentralized solutions at a regional level could play in India, while not just limiting to technological innovation, in scaling our impact in addressing climate change. And in that, I'm more interested to know at two levels, what could be the potential challenges that as a region or even as a country we could face in implementing it? And if managed to implement it effectively, what could be the potential benefits for all the stakeholders? Thank you.
The question is a bit complicated, Preeti, but still I want to say what the individual action or decentralized action will lead. Basically, we all talk about climate change without comprehensively reaching out to solutions, everybody, including me. One day in Mumbai, when I was moving, the driver, one Mr. Akshay Kumar, was talking. Just ask simple things actually. Sir, in your life, how many trees you have planted? I was really felt very guilty to answer that question. If you could plant one tree per year during your birthday, we would have built more than 50 trees in our lifetime, minimum 60 trees in our lifetime. If one individual plants 6 trees, 140 crore people can plant so many trees. Yeah, any big challenge has to be faced with the small actions only. As an individual, we have to be very, very conscious of what we are doing, as well as if we are able to take a vow that today I am going to, in a year during monsoon, I will plant 5 trees in my village pond site. Simple, as good as that. You don't need to have extraordinary maintenance. Near pond, always you see our Ganapati temple, always near the pond area. A big people tree will be there. It's a symbol of worship. We worship nature. Like that, starting from individual. An individual may take certain small actions like planting trees, using minimum water, using minimum energy. Similarly, panchayat, urban local bodies, state level, national level. We have to think in a comprehensive level from the starting from an individual to national level. Leave apart global. We are lesser mortal to talk about global. At least within our India, what we can contribute to the energy, environment by making a small step. Instead of using a tissue paper, why don't we use a cloth? The simple thing, in individual behavioral change, everybody has talked about the same thing. In a way, individual behavioral change will accumulate into a panchayat level, local body level, urban level, and regional level. It will be a national implications. That's what I feel way forward to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your active participation and enthusiasm as an audience. And thank you to our moderators as well as our panelists for answering these questions. I would now request Professor Swati Bandi to step forward and summarize the discussion and present the key takeaways from this discussion. Professor Swati.
No. I think I'll stand here. It's okay, right?
Yeah.
All right. Right. Can everyone hear me? All right. So I have some loosely tied together thoughts, and I'm going to present it to an audience here, which is sort of like a microcosm of the global sort of landscape that we've been talking about, right? So I've heard that we have students from various colleges and universities in Bangalore. We have people from public policy. We have we have people from the news media. We have faculty, and so I can't stop thinking about how the kind of potential that one to affect change that exists right here. So here are some loosely tied together thoughts. So the mission statement of the Sustainable Development Goal 13 states that urgent action is needed to combat climate change and its impact. And I think that my just hearing the panelists as well as my as well as the moderators and the fantastic questions that came from the audiences and the answers to them, just hearing them, I felt that some of that urgency has been sort of, met, right, with the kind of discussion that we had today. So one of the things that we often have to contend with is the sort of the bleakness which surrounds climate change and climate change narrative. So a lot of the times that I'm reading these narratives, one of the questions that I have to ask myself, and I think just from hearing all of you, I found an answer to was how do we contend with this bleakness? What's the way forward? And I think being located in a university, being located in an institute, an academic institution like ours is, I think, the optimum sort of, or the best space that discussions like these can happen because the negative cycle or of production and consumption could be broken with discussions like ours. So I just have three main takeaways. I think there was a lot that was said, and I can't claim to be a climate change I'm not a denier, of course, but by no means I'm an expert. And a lot of what I have read comes from expert, conversations like this. So just three very loose sort of takeaways. One is the importance of partnerships, and being located at an institute, an academic institution like ours, I think is testament to the power of partnerships. Particularly multi-stakeholder partnerships. that was spoken about by all of you here. So, so I think the importance of partnerships, the importance of empowering with knowledge. I particularly liked what Denuka said about proactive local solutions going all the way to children, for instance, and having conversations embedded into curricula, for instance, would be a great way forward. I was also particularly struck by the conversation about how to include academia into R&D. I think that's a crucial sort of step to to climate resilience, or furthering the discussion on climate resilience. And I think what we've started here, um, you know, um, we should see the ripples of that going forward, I hope. And the third is, I have to, say, Dr. Ram Prasad Manohar, I was, furiously jotting down all the zingy one-liners that you gave us, but I think one of the best, or I'll end with two. One is, of course, about solutioning. A lot of the times, we are trying to solution before we understand the problem. And I really like the way that you went back to talking about how there is a solution where there is a problem. And I really like that. And I will end my little sort of summing up by, again, piggybacking on what you said about not turning the business of sustainability into a business. And there's so much that is loaded into that, that I don't want to lecture you. I mean, that is my profession, but I think we're all, we have a lot to take away from this. And thank you all once again. And I thank my colleague, Deepti and Rajani for putting this together. And thank you all for being on.
Thank you, Mrs. Swami, for the key takeaways. Now I may request Professor Deepti and Professor Swati to step forward and present the mementos to the guests. Thank you. I would now like to invite Pallavi Datta, Academic Associate at the Center for Management Communication, for a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ria. On behalf of Center for Management Communication at IIM Bangalore and Center for Environment Education, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the esteemed panelists for sharing your invaluable this insights as well as insightful discussions. And I would also like to say that these discussions definitely has an impact on us by showing the community-based, national as well as subnational inputs and understanding. I would also like to thank the distinguished audience and also the thought-provoking questions that were asked and enhanced the discussion today. And there are people from consulting firms, institutes, as well as government officials here with us today. And I would also like to thank the technical staff, the housekeeping, as well as the photographers for helping us run this event successfully and smoothly. And lastly, I would also like to thank the viewers who are watching us over live YouTube streaming. Thank you for your time. And before you all leave, I would request you to please join with us outside this classroom. We have arranged high tea and snacks for you. And we look forward for further discussion and networking opportunities into the area of climate resilience. Thank you so much.